Okay, so I'm going to talk about the company that I have and me, some non-technical explanations of GANs, which is one of the technologies that we use for this, for you technical people. Why should you build virtual influencers, how to do it, and this will probably take about 15 minutes, and I'll have a couple minutes for Q&A, but also if you just have a question in the middle of this, shoot your hand up, and I'm happy to take it in the middle. So I have a startup that builds machine learning tools for e-commerce, but we do not sell those tools at this moment. We buy direct-to-consumer e-commerce companies, and we use our tools to grow them faster. At some point we will, so this tool that you'll see, this virtual influencer tool that we built, which I'll talk about, we're actually going to open up for beta in Q1. So at the end of this, if you think it's something you'd like to try, you can reach out to me. About me, I'm a Kentucky Wildcat, which is awesome. This is my third company, Dianthus. I decided to be the CTO this time because if you've been a CEO, you know it's a terrible job. So I want to start by talking about generative content. So if you've heard of a model that came out called DALL-E 2, which is a multimodal model, so they trained a whole bunch of images and descriptions of those images together, so that if you give the model an image, it'll tell you what's in the image, it'll give you the description, and if you give it a description, it'll give you an image. So this is a famous example that's been going around the internet, where somebody gave DALL-E 2 the prompt, a bowl of soup that is a portal to another dimension as digital art. And DALL-E 2 created this picture. This is not a picture it found somewhere. This is a picture it made. So that is where we are in terms of state-of-the-art AI. As you can think about, this is going to have huge impacts on content generation like this going forward. So how does a GAN work? This is a little bit simplified, but basically think about it this way. You train a machine learning model on some kinds of pictures. Is this a cat? Is this not a cat? Is this a cat? Is this not a cat? And you get your discriminator, which is right here. Your discriminator tells you if it's a cat or not. Then you take a generator and you feed it some random noise and you have it kick out a picture to the discriminator and say, is this a cat? And the discriminator says no. And then it keeps trying. And because these are computers and they can work really fast, it can do this millions of times in a very short period of time until the generator learns to trick the discriminator with pictures of cats. So that's what a GAN is. It's called a generative adversarial network. And it's adversarial because the generator and the discriminator are fighting against each other a little bit, right? So why would you want to use this to build virtual influencers? Because if you've had to deal with influencers, they kind of suck, right? They, they have 2,000 followers on Instagram, and they want you to pay them $10,000 a month, and like whatever, and it's kind of terrible. So because I have this e-commerce company now, and we're like, it's annoying to deal with these influencers. What if we made fake influencers? Now, there's a bunch of issues with this, both technical and ethical and everything we'll talk about. But there are some fake influencers. So if you go to Instagram and you look at Lil Michaela, she's about 5 years old, she's got 3 million followers, and she's 100% open with the idea that she is a robot influencer. So she does not pretend to be human, but she's generated with older technology that you would use to make like Pixar movies and stuff like that. So very economically expensive to do. You would not want to undertake this at your company because it would cost you a lot of money and a lot of time. But these generative technologies, these GANs that I've talked about, are still, based on the pictures you'll see later, maybe not quite there, but they're getting really close to be able to generate things like Lil Michaela very cheap and very cost effectively. So what does this do? Reduction in marginal cost. If you think about the idea that instead of having a social media person who has to manage 5 influencers, if for every customer segment that you have, every customer persona, you could create and manage your own influencer account, like, wouldn't that be great? Right now, you're like, do people want to follow these fake influencers? Okay, look, so my son watches people play video games on Twitch, and he's 11, and I'm like, dude, don't you want to play the video game instead of watch somebody play? And he's like, no, Dad, like, I like how they do it. So these people that are way younger than me think a lot differently about this, right? They think about, well, it's like, would you want to watch a fake person's life on Instagram? Like, do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to read fiction stories? Like, it's the same because they're natives. So I think this is going to be a big thing. And then obviously what we want to do is we want to craft these stories. We want the machine to generate the images, make it super easy and simple to post, and then occasionally we'll slide some of our products in there, right? If you work for Expedia and you create, Susie Smith, and Susie Smith is going to a bachelorette party and she's going to book her flight on Expedia, right? You can imagine sliding those things in. So this is what our application looks like. We have created these influencers, and then you upload a picture. So you can upload the Bronx Zoo, you can upload Central Park, you can upload the Washington Monument. And then we have this stage of machine learning models that takes these people and tries to figure out, it's been trained on a bunch of pictures in front of people in front of the Washington Monument and in front of other places. So it tries to figure out, and this is actually the hardest thing. Number one, how big should this person be in this picture? So, it generates 20 at a time, and some of them are really funny because for some pictures it's hard to tell what the size and scope is, right? And then number two, how should they be posing, right? Are they doing the hearts with the hands, Do they have their arms crossed? Are they dancing? What are they doing? And then it runs through something that tries to harmonize the image so that it doesn't look like we cut this person out of paper and taped them to a different picture, right? Which is another hard problem. So this is relatively technically complicated to do, and it's taken us about 9 months of 2 people working on this full time to sort of get this going. So here's another example of it, and what you can see here is we generate a bunch of images. Most of them suck, but look, if the model can give you 1 out of 30 that's really good, and it can create 30 images in 60 seconds, then we might as well do this, and we'll pick the one that works. So this is what the tool will look like if you want to try it out someday. Now, it took a while to get good. These were some of our first iterations on this, right? Trying to merge pictures together and place people's faces. It was so bad at this point that we wouldn't even show it to the rest of the team because everybody at Dianthus loved this project and they wanted to know more about it. And we were like, no. If the CEO had seen it at this point, he would have just killed it, right? Because this doesn't look like it's going anywhere. But for those of you that have done machine learning in bigger companies, one of the things that that's hard to pull off is it takes a lot of time for the machines to get better than the humans. And this is part of the reason that a lot of projects get killed off before they're actually ready, right? You have to, this is not like SAS where you just pop a tool out and it works and there you go. These things take time and nurturing and training and different approaches, and then you hit limits, and plus it's all data sciencey, so it's a little bit of we don't, when it was here, I was we knew we could make it better, but where it is today, when you see some of those images, we're not exactly sure where to take it to make it a little bit better, right? It's not always as well understood as your core engineering principles are today. So, oops, they're too fast. So this is what our pipeline looks like, right? So we have the background, we have product images we may use, we have someone's identity. And what you can see is some of the pieces are in pretty good position. The blue ones are the data that we put in. Some of the ones are working okay. The facial replacement stuff, do a whole talk on that and what's working and what's not and some of the things we've learned. That's actually really hard technology. So, but once this we think by the end of the year, this will be good enough that we can turn it into a tool that we will let other people use. So again, that's why you'll be able to run a virtual influencer campaign. So these are some recent experiments, and we've really been researching the pose and positioning because the model has a tendency to people on Instagram tend to pose in lots of the same ways, and it's not always natural. So we ran into this problem where the data set that we trained on, which was just millions of scraped Instagram images, didn't always generate the poses that we wanted. So we've been working on some of that stuff. We've been working on, I'm not a very visual person, so sometimes I look at these and I go, oh, they look great. And people that are very visual are the lighting's all screwed up. The lighting would never look this way. So there's some other pieces like this that are really hard to do. And as you can imagine, if you do a lot of machine learning, you end up with this is not one model. You end up with just a whole bunch of models, right? Some that you pick from in an ensemble format, some that you run it through in a series. And then tools that automatically post this, automatically suggest captions, automatically tell us things like, hey, Bronx Zoo's popular today. You might want to have your virtual influencer, post the picture at the Bronx Zoo. And then we try to get them to actually build authentic relationships with people. Now, we're very early in this, so we have a couple of influencer accounts out there. And I think this slide, this is some pictures. So this is sort of state of the art of where we are right now. So this is Ava, one of our influencers. And you can see her all around New York doing different things. So the technology is getting pretty good. She doesn't quite look human. If you're familiar with the idea of the uncanny valley, it's this idea that robots or fake people should never look too real because then it freaks us out. So we've gone back and forth, and this will be an interesting thing to watch about the industry. Should we improve on this, and how much? Right? You know, do people want it to look a little bit, they want the robots and virtual people to look a little bit like robots and virtual people or not? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Again, I would say my generation, yes, we do. We want them to look a little bit different. You know, my children, they talk to Alexa like she's a person, right? They don't distinguish the way that we do between embodied and embodied intelligent agents. So, technical details. If you want to try this, here's some stuff that we tried. You know, you can take a snapshot of that and play around with it. It's very expensive, the compute for this, as you can imagine. So how do we manage Instagram? Well, so once they're posted on Instagram, we have these scripts that go out as them and comment on similar people, similar posts, leave hashtags for things. What you'll find is if you go out and follow 10 people on Instagram, 1 or 2 will follow you back. Over time, you can unfollow people. So the audience building piece we've tried to automate as well. There's a lot of concern in the company on the marketing team around the commenting piece and the hashtag piece because while these NLP models are pretty good at generating comments and hashtags, they often miss key context. And so in general, why you feel safe, right now we have a human still review everything before it's posted because you could end up in like one really bad mess where you miss some cultural context of something that people were saying, right? And you posted the wrong word, and it could, you know, you could really look bad. So that's where we are today. Status and open issues. So we haven't posted any products yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know yet, like I can't tell you how many times, you know, is it 1 out of every 5 posts, 1 out of every 20 posts that we can put a product in and not have people be like, this is just a fake account for the company and nobody cares, right? So I think we've got to manage that a little bit. The early user engagement has been minimal. People are following us back, but most of the messages we get are things like, thanks for the follow, or, you know, cool profile. So we haven't really got a lot of engagement, so we're working on that. The generative pipeline is pretty fast and effective. We've done a lot of work on that, so that's getting better. What does Instagram think about this is what I get asked. I'm like, I don't know. We may get banned. This may never be a product. Lil Michaela's out there, and there's a couple more. My assumption, if I work at Instagram, is if it increases engagement, I'm going to let you do it. So my guess is that they'll support this. If you know anybody that can answer this question for me on Instagram, I'd love to be introduced to them. But you know, I think they'll probably put some rules in place like you have to admit it's a robot, you have to admit that it's owned by this company or whatever. But again, I'm not sure people who are 15 years old care. They just want to be entertained. They just want good stories. What platforms should be supported next? You know, we're going to start working on video for this. That's a lot harder of a problem to solve. You know, are there older platforms? Like, should we go back to Facebook? Like, probably not. Should we do this for Snapchat or TikTok? Or like, you know, another 2 years, there'll be something beyond TikTok that'll be the new thing, right? So we got to be prepared for that. So we're thinking a lot about that. And then should we open up the tool to others? Like I said, we're interested in doing that, but not quite ready to do it yet. Hopefully, if some of you are interested, you can beta test. And with that, if you want to email me, this is how to get a hold of me. You can also follow me on Twitter. I don't know why you want to do that. I don't tweet that much anymore. And I do have an AI newsletter, investinginai.substack.com. I've done about 115 angel investments. So also, if you have an early stage company or you know one in AI, I love mentoring founders and making investments. So with that, I think I've got my 3-minute signal. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating technology. I'm just thinking, once it's ready, how do you police the usage of it? You know, maybe some people may want to use it as part of the political campaign.
Yeah, that's a great question. Part of the reason that I got into the field of AI as a technical person is I'm really drawn to like all the philosophical and ethical and you know, political implications of it. We would probably not allow that for now. That's what a lot of like OpenAI and a lot of these groups are doing. Now, look, in 5 years, this technology that I just showed you is going to be stuff you'll do on your phone in 2 minutes. So I don't know what happens then. But yeah, for now, I think we would, I don't think we would open it up to anybody, and people probably have to apply, and we would monitor some of that. Other questions? Yes? Yeah, I don't know that we can get around that with this tool, but it's part of the reason that I went with this model of Dianthus of instead of building a bunch of point solutions to like sell to other companies, we buy D2C companies, is because we can integrate our whole stack soup to nuts and we can track everything all the way through. Excuse me. And plus, when you build software for other people, you have to think about UI and user validation and all these kinds of things that we don't have to think about now, which is actually pretty awesome. So I don't have a good answer for that yet. Other questions? Yes. Yes, I'm concerned about that in general, right? So I'll tell you a story. So I was a very early blogger. I started blogging in 2003. And I remember at the time people were like, this is going to be great, like down with the gatekeepers, right? Like every man can now write what they want. And I think we found out like, do you really want every man to write what they want, right? Like now we're like, please bring back the gatekeepers because we're drowning in content. So my guess, because look, this is coming. If you guys have seen Copy AI and these other tools, like content is coming. We're going to be flooded with it. My guess is you're going to start to see curated content that is all human. People are going to curate that, all machine driven. Maybe you'll see that'll be a box in Google, right? You'll have to verify this stuff. So there'll be some solution like that. But yeah, it's going to be a mess. That's a good insight. All right, I think you got one more.
The model picks a reasonable location for the event. Can it optimize the location to be somewhere relevant to news or a location that fits the product?
Not yet. We have to do that. But my goal and my vision for Dianthus is when you have an idea for a product and you can get it made, everything else is automated. So we'll get there someday. I mean, maybe that's a decade away, but that's what we're working on. So anyway, I'm around today and tomorrow. Come say hi, email me. Thank you guys for your time.